Hello, Benchwarmers, and welcome back to the Bench Report newsletter. You're with Amy and Ivan.
Back again.
As always, our intrepid producer, Tom, has been delving into the murky depths of another ministerial department.
He does love a good delve, doesn't he?
This week, it's the thrilling world of transport.
Buckle up, everyone.
Specifically, he's been sifting through the parliamentary records, the recent House of Commons session where ministers faced, well, a grilling about all things transport.
Questions, we believe they're called.
Yes, that's the technical term.
From grand pronouncements about infrastructure to the nitty-gritty of bus routes and potholes.
And let's be honest, who doesn't love a good pothole discussion?
The bedrock of British transport, one might say.
So, we've got the highlights, the lowlights, and everything in between. Think of this as your backstage pass to understanding what's being debated and decided about how we, the great unwashed, get around.
Without further ado, let's embark on this transport odyssey, shall we?
Right then. First stop. Grand pronouncements from on high. The Secretary of State for Transport kicked things off with a rather bold claim. Growth is this government's #1 mission, and transport connectivity is key. Ambitious stuff.
Big words, big promises. We've heard this tune before, haven't we? Every government pledges a transport revolution. But the question is, can they actually deliver the goods?
Well, the strategy, according to the Secretary of State, involves delivering the basics of a better transport system, cutting journey times and improving connections. Sounds almost sensible.
Almost. But the devil, as they say, is in the details. And the details in this case involve a rather eclectic mix of infrastructure projects, policy pronouncements, and local skirmishes.
Speaking of skirmishes, let's talk about the Gateshead Flyover. This imposing structure has been dramatically dubbed a 400-ton barrier to jobs. 400 tons. That's not just a flyover. It's practically a mountain range obstructing the path to economic prosperity.
A rather striking image. And of course, no transport deep dive would be complete without a ministerial visit. The Minister for Future of Roads graced the Gateshead Flyover with their presence, presumably to assess the situation. But will this visit result in concrete action, or was it merely a photo opportunity in the shadow of this concrete behemoth?
Only time will tell. Now, from concrete giants to maritime misadventures, let's set sail for Scotland, where the ferries are making waves, but not in a good way. Fare hikes and contracts awarded to shipyards in Poland, it's enough to make a Scotsman weep into his whiskey.
The Secretary of State expressed concern about sending vital jobs and investment abroad, which seems a bit rich considering, well, global trade and all that. It does raise the question of where national priorities lie in this interconnected world.
It certainly does. And while we're on the subject of islands feeling a bit isolated, the Isle of Wight is apparently grappling with the joys of private equity control over its cross-Solent transport. They're feeling a tad marooned, shall we say.
There's been talk of empowering a future mayoral authority to wrestle back control of those vital ferry links. Could this be a model for other regions facing similar challenges? Or is the Isle of Wight a unique case, destined to be tossed about by the tides of market forces?
Interesting question. Right, let's shift our focus from ferries to the skies, where the perennial debate about airport expansion continues to rage. Heathrow versus regional airports, it's a battle for the ages.
One MP astutely inquired whether the rising tide of air travel is truly lifting all regional airports, or just those conveniently located near London.
It's a valid point. Are we creating an aviation aristocracy where only those near the capital get to fly high?
And let's not forget the environmental impact of all this flying. The government is trying to walk a tightrope between supporting aviation growth and hitting those ambitious environmental targets. Sustainable aviation fuel and hydrogen are being touted as potential solutions, but are they the silver bullet or just a bit of greenwashing at 30,000 feet?
We'll have to wait and see. Right, hold on to your hats, everyone, because we're about to plunge into the chaotic world of public transport. First stop, local buses, the lifeblood of many communities, or in some cases, the rather anemic trickle of transport options.
Indeed. In Newcastle-under-Lyme, the lack of bus provision is apparently hindering access to essential services. The minister's suggestion lobbied the local council, despite the government claiming it's pumping money into bus services.
It's a bit like saying, oh, you need affordable housing. Just go and ask your local council nicely. They'll sort it out.
The reality, of course, is a bit more complex. Who's actually in control here? Is it central government with its funding pronouncements? Or is it local councils making decisions on the ground?
And then we have the private bus operators, those masters of route roulette. Watford and Reading are apparently experiencing the joys of arbitrarily changed and canceled services. Passengers left stranded. schedules in tatters.
It's enough to make you want to tear up your bus pass and invest in a sturdy pair of walking boots.
The government's hope. The bus services. Number 2, Bill. Will this legislation finally tame the Wild West of private bus routes?
It's meant to give local authorities more control and hopefully bring some stability to those beleaguered passengers. But let's be realistic. Legislation can only do so much. The fundamental tension between profit-driven private operators and the need for reliable, affordable public transport is likely to persist.
And let's not forget the human impact of all this. We heard about young people unable to access education due to unreliable and costly public transport. A stark contrast to the free travel enjoyed by older residents. It raises questions about priorities, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If we truly value social mobility and equal opportunities, then access to affordable, reliable transport is essential.
Right. Next stop on our public transport adventure, the railways. Where to even begin?
The Secretary of State's cautiously optimistic statement that train performance is starting to stabilize perhaps sums it up.
Stabilize.
Yeah.
Not improve, not excel, just stabilize. Is that the height of our ambition these days?
It does suggest a rather low bar, doesn't it? And even if performance is stabilizing, there are still persistent issues with punctuality, reliability, and accessibility.
Oh, the accessibility issues. The examples of Shepley Station and the glacial pace of the Access for All program are truly depressing. How long must people with mobility issues wait for basic access to the rail network?
It's a question that deserves a far more urgent response than we're currently seeing.
And then there's the infrastructure project delays. The Croydon Area Remodeling Scheme is the latest in a long line of projects that are recklessly overpromised. To quote one MP, we're promised shiny new rail upgrades, but what we often get is, well, more delays and cost overruns.
It's a familiar story, unfortunately, and it erodes public trust in the government's ability to deliver on these grand infrastructure plans.
And let's not forget the joys of uncoordinated engineering works. Why is it so difficult to align different transport modes?
As one MP so eloquently put it, it's like trying to conduct an orchestra of unruly toddlers.
Exactly. A perfect analogy.
The fragmented nature of the transport sector, with multiple agencies and operators often working in silos, is a major part of the problem.
Right. And while we're talking about rail woes, let's spare a thought for the long-suffering commuters of Southern Rail. Specifically, those in Chichester who are paying a premium for a service that seems to actively avoid punctuality and lacks a fast link to London.
It raises questions about value for money and whether certain regions are consistently receiving a lower standard of service.
It certainly does. And the nationalization debate rumbles on, with even a conservative MP questioning why the worst-performing operators aren't first in line for public ownership. The government, however, insists on waiting for franchises to expire.
Which strikes some as a rather passive approach, perhaps hoping the problem will magically resolve itself.
Of course, we can't forget the promise of increased capacity. HS2 and other enhancements are dangled like futuristic carrots. But when will these grand schemes actually translate into tangible benefits for the everyday commuter?
It's a question that many are asking. The long lead times on these projects mean the promised benefits feel very distant for those dealing with the current frustrations of the network.
And let's not forget the local battles. The campaign for dueling the Knaresborough-York line, the lack of Sunday services in Uttoxeter due to staffing issues, it highlights the fact that even seemingly small-scale issues can have a huge impact on local communities.
And it underscores the importance of local connectivity, a point often lost in the grand pronouncements about national infrastructure.
Right. One final rail mystery before we move on. What's happening with those new Arterio trains on Southwestern Railway? They've been delayed for so long. They've practically achieved mythical status.
Another example of the complexities of rolling stock procurement and the potential for significant delays, leaving passengers waiting for those promised improvements.
Right. Deep breath, everyone. We're heading back to terra firma. Let's talk active travel. The government is pledging nearly 300 million different pounds for active travel infrastructure. That's enough for 300 miles of new footpaths and cycle lanes.
Sounds impressive. But will those paths and lanes actually be built? And more importantly, will people use them? Or will they become the exclusive domain of dog walkers and lycra-clad enthusiasts?
Well, the government is certainly hoping to encourage more people to embrace two wheels. We're promised fewer GP visits and sick days if we all just get on our bikes.
Can we truly pedal our way to a healthier nation?
It's a nice idea, but let's be realistic. There are barriers to cycling. Safety concerns are a major one, especially for women.
The government is promising a new road safety strategy to address this. Hopefully, it will make cycling feel safer for everyone, not just the fearless few.
But even if we do manage to entice more people onto bikes, there's the issue of those pesky potholes. In Eastbourne, the crumbling road surfaces are apparently undermining all the good work on active travel. What's the point of a shiny new cycle lane if you risk a broken axle getting to it?
It highlights the importance of maintaining existing infrastructure, not just focusing on flashy new projects.
Absolutely. And speaking of safety concerns, let's not forget the gig economy workers on two wheels, those delivery riders zipping through traffic to meet those ever-tightening deadlines.
The minister has apparently written to food delivery companies expressing concern about rider safety. But will that be enough to actually change practices? Or will those riders continue to face unacceptable risks in the pursuit of speedy deliveries?
Another good question. Right, last but not least, the greening of transport. The government has launched a maritime decarbonisation strategy, setting sail for a greener future, as they say.
Decarbonizing shipping is a huge challenge, but it's essential if we're serious about tackling climate change.
And there's a broader ambition to make public transport more sustainable, which will require some pretty radical changes, considering the age of some of those buses and trains.
Indeed, it will require investment in cleaner technologies, infrastructure upgrades, and a more joined-up approach to transport planning.
The electric vehicle rollout continues, with charging infrastructure supposedly being expanded. But are we doing enough to ensure that everyone has access to charging points, especially in rural areas?
It's a key challenge. We can't have a two-tier electric vehicle system where only those with off-street parking can easily charge their cars.
Absolutely. The UK also has ambitions to be a leader in sustainable aviation fuel. But can we actually produce enough of this wonder fuel to make a real difference?
It will require significant investment and innovation.
The bus services, number 2 bill, which aims for zero-emission buses, has been welcomed in South Yorkshire. Could this be a model for other regions?
Empowering local authorities to shape their bus services could indeed accelerate the shift to greener fleets.
Now, a question that's been plaguing me for years. When will those diesel trains finally disappear from the rail network?
Electrification and the development of alternative fuel technologies are key, but it's a slow and expensive process.
Let's hope it happens sooner rather than later. Right, a few more accessibility points before we wrap things up. Concerns were raised about bus service accessibility in Kent, with accusations of local political meddling.
A reminder that even the most well-intentioned policies can be undermined by local politics.
And recruiting community bus drivers is proving difficult due to post-1997 driving license rules. It's a tricky balance between ensuring safety and meeting the needs of communities.
Indeed. Sometimes regulations designed with the best intentions can have unintended consequences.
Right, let's end with a few transport current affairs. Recent incidents like vessel collisions and the Heathrow substation fire highlight the importance of safety and the need to learn from mistakes.
It's a reminder that even in a technologically advanced world, things can go wrong. And when they do, we need to be sure that we're doing everything possible to prevent them from happening again.
Councils are now being asked to report on pothole repairs to unlock funding. A bit of a carrot-and-stick approach to road maintenance.
Let's hope it leads to smoother journeys for everyone.
And of course, the ever-present threat of rail strikes looms large. The Secretary of State even hinted that safety concerns could be a factor in future disputes.
The industrial relations landscape on the railways remains complex and, frankly, a bit of a headache for everyone involved.
So there you have it. Our deep dive into the world of transport questions in Parliament has revealed a landscape of ambition, challenges, and, let's be honest, a fair bit of frustration. From grand infrastructure projects to the daily grind of commuting, it's clear that how we get around is a vital issue that affects us all.
And it's an issue that's constantly evolving with new technologies, changing priorities, and, of course, the ever-present constraints of budgets and political will.
Please do subscribe if not already, or consider a pledge to help support Tom's work.
He'd really appreciate it.
Remember to download the Bench Report wherever you get your podcasts. Take care.